This is so creepy and cool.
Hi, this is Ariel. Bonjour. Welcome to my channel where we make fun costumes and weird stuff. It is spooky season, so today we will make something creepy. I love horror movies and I love science fiction, so of course I love Alien. With my friend Nani from Seamstressed. You can check out her channel if you want a boost of sewing energy. We had the idea to make something inspired by Alien, but make it fashion, and we would send it to each other. She lives in Germany and she is making shoes. I can't wait to see them. I will be making a bag because I really love weirdly shaped bags. I want to try and make it look like those super gross alien eggs, the ones with the slimy things that comes out from the top. Let's try and make that. I hope it's going to be disgusting. Whee! Well, this is another project where I don't plan on buying anything. So let's just scavenge some scraps from my stash. I have a box where I keep little pieces but that have interesting textures. I thought I would do the creepy texture with latex, but I remembered that I have this bottle of Flexbond, which is easier to use, that is more durable and also doesn't smell like death, like liquid latex. This old bedsheet will be perfect as a mock-up. To make the egg shape, I need 4 pieces shaped like an eye. I kind of guessed the shape. Now we just need to cut 4 pieces like this and assemble them. I put some stuff inside to see the shape a little better, and it was not great. It was too chunky for an egg. So I just needed to make those pieces a little thinner. Now the shape is much better. I traced the shape on a paper, which will be my pattern, and also I can draw on this paper all the gross squiggly lines that you can see. I drew one side and folded the paper so I can make it symmetrical on my window. And now I can use carbon paper to trace it on the fabric. You put this paper underneath and the pressure will mark the fabric. I'm using my little roulette for this. It worked perfectly, but I realized that this fabric is actually see-through, so you can see the template through it, which is much easier. Now to texture the shapes that I just draw, I'm using all the scraps from before. First this felt to make the round part raised, give them some volume. And this weird net thing to give them a little interesting texture. Okay, I've tried here with different kinds of fabrics that I sewed on, as you can see here. But I'm really struggling to get a shape that is nice, and I think the stitching will look kind of bad with the Flexbond, so I'm thinking that I could use maybe the easy way and use hot glue. It looks bad. But I think I have another solution, and that's burning everything. Let's use the synthetic organza and heat. That's right, we are going to melt this polyester. But my heat gun is blowing air a little bit too hard, so let's just secure this fabric first. I don't need to protect the floor, because we are going to be really fast with the heat. A little bit of testing in the corner. As you can see, I immediately burned holes in the fabric. With this method, you need to be really careful, because this fabric is super fragile. But we have some very interesting textures here. The heat melts and shrinks the fabric in a specific point, but it's so fast that you have to be a heat gun ninja for it to work. Also, it's super fun. Now that we have our textures, let's make this creepy sandwich. We have the cotton, a thin layer of batting, the felt eyes, and the 2 layers of organza, with the textured one on top. Then I stitched the circle around the eye from underneath, where I have all the markings, and I just cut the burnt organza because I want this area to be more smooth. Hello. And now it's simply following all the lines. I'm not an expert, but I think this is basically quilting.
To make the lines that look like a ribcage more visible, I'm using this ribbon thing with this super big blunt needle, and I can run it through all the lines. This will make those lines a little bit more raised, and I hope this will make the design more visible. Before making those ugly and gross, we need to work on the trimming. I will call this the lips. And for this part, this ribbed fabric will be perfect. I'm cutting strips and assembling them, and this gets folded with some scraps of batting inside. My hope is to use this like a corded bias tape. This looks like intestines. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Oh. If you've never heard of Skillshare, it's an online community of creators. They have thousands of courses in pretty much anything you can think of, whether it's music, graphic design, business, painting. If there is something you want to teach yourself, it's probably there. I'm currently learning plenty of stuff on this class called Foraging for Natural Fabric Dyes by Amy Plant. But there are so many subjects to choose from, they feel like more college classes than YouTube videos. There are millions of users, and you can join and connect with other people and maybe get feedback on the project you are working on. The best thing is that it's ad-free, and the whole catalog is available with subtitles in Spanish, in German, in Portuguese, and in French. Oui, oui, croissant. If you are interested in joining Skillshare, you can click the link in the description, and the first 1,000 people who click it will get 1 month's free trial of Skillshare. Thank you for sponsoring this video. Now let's go back to work. Now let's make all those pieces of fabric look like alien skin. The inside of my egg will be pink for more grossness. So I'm mixing the flex bond with some red acrylic paint. It is very pink now, but the flex bond actually dries clear. So this pink will be a lot darker later. For the inside of the egg, I'm using this piece of fabric that already has the texture that I like. We just need to make it more fleshy and less fabricy. The lips also get a generous amount of this goo, as well as my fingers. And let's do the same thing on the big parts, this time in black. It is also a bit sticky, so it will glue all the loose threads together, which will hide all the stitching lines. And if you remember this white net thing, the flex bond will glue it to the other layer. This is already so creepy, I love it. When it was mostly dry, I added a second layer. And to speed up the drying process and increase the texture, I used the heat gun again. And the result was really awesome. Look at this! Look at this gross thing. It makes me happy. Anyway, let's cut the excess. To make the details pop, I'm using silver paint and a dry makeup brush so I can paint the raised edges, but keeping the black color in all the crevices. This is called dry brushing. I also dry brush the red parts with some pink to make those parts look more fleshy. Check out the difference. I think it looks more realistic. Well, for something that doesn't exist. Now let's assemble everything. I'm using clips because the pins have a hard time going through the flex bond, and that's why also I had to sew very slowly. But I'm proud to say that I didn't break any machine needle. Oh, I'm so happy that it already looks so cool. I did not expect this project to be so much fun. The lip strip was a bit too wide, so I just chopped it off. I'm sewing this just like a corded bias tape. By doing it in a continuous line, I have this weird effect in the corner, just like the image. The inside of the bag will be lined, except for the triangular top. So let's add this piece now. All those layers are very rigid And I had a lot of trouble to sew the corners by machine, so I did them by hand with a strong thread and sometimes the help of pliers. For the bag to look like a bag, I'm going to add a strap. My favorite method is to add a scrap of leather, so it can hold a metal ring, and I attach it with rivets. The lining is 4 pieces of this shape, making more use of my cotton bedsheet, and I put a cord at the top. This can be sewn in place to hide the ugly parts. And I realized that it was too small. See the gap at the center? I didn't want to redo that lining, so I just added a strip at the top. The top is bothering me. I want to keep those flappets together. So I sewed some big hooks, which don't like it. So instead I put some transparent rings at the top, and they can be closed with a cord that also can be removed. Look what I got! This just arrived from Germany! Haha, the letter. Oh wow! This is so sexy! This is so creepy and cool. I need to try them on. Subscribe!
Your dirty